I'm convicted, but I am not a murderer. I did not murder my children. I did not attack myself.
She wakes up every morning inside a box smaller than a parking space. She has done it for nearly 30 years. The same 4 concrete walls. The same steel door. The same silence that presses against her mind until her thoughts feel louder than her heartbeat. She is called a monster by some. A victim of a broken justice system by others. Her children were butchered in their own home. She was sentenced to die for it. But the DNA that could settle everything still hasn't come back. And what is happening to her behind those prison walls in 2026 is something most people would call worse than death. Before we go any further, we must remember the real victims in this case. Devon Rautier, age 6, and Damon Rautier, age 5. 2 innocent little boys whose lives were stolen in a brutal and heartbreaking way. If you believe in prayer, please take a moment to pray for Devon and Damon and their family. Type Amen in the comments section so their names are never forgotten. My name is Cellblock Shades. I am a crime analyst. I lost 2 children to murder. That pain is what keeps me digging when I feel like quitting. Traveling to courthouses. Filing FOIA requests. Reading thousands of pages of court records. Watching grainy evidence tapes at 3 a.m. when the world is asleep. There are days I feel like giving up. But victims deserve voices. And because my own children were taken from me, I cannot stop. Also tell me in the comments where you are watching from in 2026. I read every single one. For nearly 3 decades, Darlie Rautier has lived inside a concrete cage on Texas death row. The same 4 walls. The same steel door. The same narrow window that barely lets in a strip of daylight. The same silence that presses against her ears until her thoughts become unbearable. She was convicted in 1997 of murdering her 5-year-old son Damon. Her older son Devon died the same night. She has maintained her innocence for almost 30 years. I did not kill my children, she has repeated from a cell barely larger than a bathroom. But Texas still intends to execute her. Every morning she wakes up knowing the state that holds her also plans to end her life. Not today. Not tomorrow. But someday. The night everything ended. June 6, 1996. Rowlett, Texas. A frantic 911 call shattered the quiet of a suburban street. Darlie Rautier was screaming that an intruder had broken into her home and stabbed her sons. Police arrived to find 6-year-old Devon and 5-year-old Damon bleeding out on the living room floor. Darlie herself had a deep cut on her neck and wounds on her arm. Blood was everywhere. Furniture overturned. A kitchen knife on the floor. A single sock was found in an alley behind the house. At first, the scene looked like a home invasion. Then investigators began to doubt her. From victim to suspect. There were no clear signs of forced entry. Her injuries looked less severe than the boy's wounds. And 8 days after the funeral, surveillance footage surfaced of Darlie spraying silly string at Devon's grave during what was supposed to be a birthday memorial. To detectives it looked cold. To a jury it looked monstrous. To her defenders, it looked like a grieving mother coping badly with trauma. 8 days later she was arrested. In 1997 she was convicted and sentenced to death by lethal injection. Just like that, a suburban mother became Texas death row inmate number 1. A case that never went quiet. Her husband Darren eventually divorced her. But he has always said he believes she is innocent. Appeals were filed. Evidence was challenged. Experts disputed bloodstain patterns. Witnesses recanted parts of their testimony. DNA testing was ordered in 2008. Then again in 2018. Then again in 2019. As of 2026, the results are still unresolved. For nearly 2 decades, the same promise has been made again and again. The truth is coming. And for nearly 2 decades, nothing has come. The place Texas sends women to die. Darlie is held at the Patrick O'Daniel unit in Gatesville, Texas. This is where Texas houses women on death row. The death row wing is sealed off from the rest of the prison. Total isolation. Her cell measures about 60 square feet. Inside it, a metal bunk. A steel toilet sink combo. A tiny desk welded to the wall. A steel stool bolted to the floor. A narrow window too high to see the sky. The door slams shut like a coffin lid. This has been her entire world since the 1990s. More than 10,000 days inside a box. The heat that almost killed them. In August 2015, Texas heat turned the unit into an oven. The cooling system failed. Temperatures inside cells exceeded 100 degrees. Women rationed water, pressed wet towels against their bodies, laid motionless on concrete floors trying not to faint. One collapsed, then another. Medical staff were overwhelmed. Darlie later said she felt like she was being slowly cooked alive. A lawsuit followed. But the suffering had already happened. Monotony is torture. She is locked in her cell 22 hours a day. 2 hours of recreation. 2 days a week outside. Meals through a slot in the door. No human contact. No touch. No privacy. She eats alone. Sleeps alone. Exists alone. Other inmates say the worst punishment is not execution. It is nothingness. The endless, crushing nothingness. The hope that nearly destroyed her. In 2019, Darlie was told DNA testing was ordered again. Hope surged. She smiled more. She crocheted. She talked about seeing her surviving son again. Then months passed. Then years. Nothing. As of 2026, still nothing. Inmates said watching her hope die was more painful than watching executions. COVID lockdown. In 2021, death row shut down completely. No recreation. No visits. No programs. No lawyers. Nothing. Women screamed. Some stopped bathing. Some stopped talking. Darlie described it as living in a walking coma. Guilty or innocent, the debate never ends. Supporters point to forensic flaws and withheld evidence. Critics point to her behavior and the wounds. Documentaries, books, podcasts, endless arguments. Meanwhile, she waits. Worse than death? Texas executions take about 15 minutes. Darlie has endured nearly 30 years. Some inmates volunteer for execution. They call it death row syndrome. She hasn't given up. Yet. 2026 reality. Darlie Rautier is now in her mid-50s. Her surviving son is a grown man. The DNA is still missing. Texas is still ready. Final questions. Is this justice? Is this humane? Is this punishment or torture? Tell me what you think. And if you want more stories like this in 2026, subscribe to Cellblock Shades. Because some stories don't end. They just keep screaming from behind concrete walls.